too, Alexis. I heard that AI is becoming dumbed down because of all the data in it, and so all the people that thought that their jobs were going to be lessened or affected by that, actually, it's turning it around, and you're in favor of people who do what you do.
Yeah, well, I was never threatened because I've been around AI behind the scenes, but there's nothing that can um, replace your voice. It
Right.
just grabs stuff out there. So people who aren't a writer, who aren't an expert, who don't really know, they're going to grab stuff and go, wow, that looks good because I didn't think of it. But a writer or a very technical person knows the differences. So I'm more into your voice and the nuances rather than just getting it done. So yeah, but I think it's kind of fun too. So I've played with it. I met with some technical people and I've kind of played with it. But honestly, when I've asked for ideas for things, I'll go through it and you don't really use them.
Yes, kind of hit or
So
miss. I kind of use it sometimes as a starting place, and then I
yeah,
can wordsmith it and change it and, or cut and paste or whatever. Just if I can't get myself started, it'll help me like
that's
maybe.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, but yeah, social media and also that goes along with your materials. I review the websites and the blogs so that you're using the same verbiage, because you can take three people, same company, same project, and say
Hmm.
you write this, you write that, and if they're not saying using the same nomenclature, same verbiage, terms, terminology, it can kind of wreak havoc with your stuff. So I'm a good reviewer. Yeah. So I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's
Well,
really interesting. It's good to hear about that, especially from someone like you that, is really a really live person. So the one thing I've been thinking about and trying to decide, going down that rabbit hole on the internet is about having an AI bot for my FAQs, but I don't want it to be too body. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to express that. I want it to be, a little more, easy listening and, a voice that might, or the way that it speaks be like more like a person rather than what is your problem? What are you looking for? That kind of thing. Because I want people to be able to, if they have a question in the middle of the night or something, they want to pursue, then they can go to my FAQs and put it in the bot and then maybe have, an answer or something that can help them in the right direction.
there's been a couple that I've experienced that have been like that. I thought it was a real person. So there's been times when I've
Whoa.
said, are you a real person or are you a bot? And they go, once it was a real person. And here's a here's a funny thing. I actually did some voice for an AI company. They do
Oh,
it so
wow.
they could get their speech patterns and whatnot. It was fun. I'm up for
Yeah.
stuff. I'm basically a writer and an editor. I'm sort of a curmudgeonly type person, but I like, like accountants. Okay, here's a true fact. When I started off in life, out of high school, went to college, studied accounting, and I also studied taxes at a couple of universities, and then
Oh,
I worked
wow.
for the IRS for a while. But I'm sorry to anybody here who's in accounting and taxes. I like writers better. Well, I'm very good at it. I couldn't deal with it at, on the day-to-day basis doing the accounting. So I'm glad we have people like you. I'm better at the other end.
Well,
So
we've
I
never.
understand it. I'm a logic thinker. A lot of people think, oh, you're a writer. No, I'm not a fluff. I like a logic, so I do like it. But doing that all day long, it was just. So I appreciate people who can do that.
Well, we
But
appreciate
that
people
is
like
my
you because I'm like Paul that, if I wanted to be, be out there and be salesy, I would have gone into marketing. I didn't. So, and that's
yeah.
why it was really hard for me in the beginning to do the social media because I wasn't used to being, I mean, I have to be the face of my business. I had to, own up to that and say, I am business. People need to be able to see me and hear me and connect with me so that they can feel comfortable doing business with me. But it was hard at first. I wasn't really great at it, but I'm getting a lot better. So I'm trying to, the more you do it, the more you can be more off the cuff rather than, staring at something and trying to read off of it. So.
Well, you have to remember it's not personal. This is more personal,
right.
But if you're just doing the social media, it's like getting in front of a group of people and having to speak. It's not really personal. So that's how I do it. I'm better with a one-on-one, but I like doing this. I like Alignable, and I like doing meetups and whatever. I think Zoom is a great invention. I love it. Zoom and Google.
All it feels personal, public speaking.
Pardon? You think it is? I don't mind if I have to.
I would rather do that than have to write something. I'm terrible with my words. Like if I can just speak it, we're good.
Yeah.
But like you, it's funny because we have engineers on staff, and so I'm client services director, and so I'm really sales, more oriented, and I'm stuck between accountants and engineers. So try that. That's a fun.
I'm your person. I interface well with engineers.
Yes.
Part of your job, all types of engineers and marketing people and people like yourself who are very knowledgeable about what you do. You're the technical person, but I'm really good at interfacing and putting it out there and then going, is this what you were trying to say?
Yes.
I started in engineering.
Oh, you started in engineering, Paul?
Yeah, my dad was an engineer. I started in engineering. They're worse than accountants, or which are better.
Yes, I would say so.
Depending on how you look at it. They're typically even more socially awkward than accountants are.
Ours are pretty good because they have to do all the interview and the technical aspects of the credit. So they're pretty good, but they still sometimes will get on. And I'm like, look, I don't do numbers and I don't do engineering. I bring it to you. Like you're going to have to dumb it down a little bit for me. So.
Well, that's like what I meant, that I had to learn to not talk like an accountant.
Yeah.
And that's what, sort of differentiates me sometimes from, other individuals that do the same thing that I do. Is that I'm trying to put it in language that they would understand.
Right.
But, that's hard. I mean, honestly, I'm sure we've all experienced that from the accounting and maybe from the engineering side. You meet someone in the same profession and it's like you're speaking another language to the other people around you. They're like, what are you even? Or like, the jokes tend to be like, we think they're hilarious. Everybody else is like, what are you? So, and like I said before, like trying to explain accrual to people is just, it's just a lesson in futility. Even though it's a very simple concept, it's just too much.
Not that hard.
Yeah, I know, but it's too much. And I also had to learn too, and I don't know if Paul, if you and your firm find this too, is that visually people really understand things better. So graphs are really a good way to communicate than, the numbers. Like they can look at the numbers and they can understand kind of what it's saying. But, if you have a graph that shows over time or relationships, it can really open their eyes in a way that, a table doesn't.
It can. I like tables.
Well, so do I. So do I. But not my clients. They're like, I don't get it.
I really hate people that bury all the data in paragraphs.
Me too.
Oh, yes.
They really got me.
That's the thing.
This percent or compared to last year. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, sure.
That's the thing. Working with engineers, just working around a lot of numbers. When there's a lot of verbiage, you have to shorten it up, make it more clear, concise, correct. And that's why I was always preferred over people who have an English degree, because the English people are trying to make it fluffy and use words, and they want it correct. Where when you're working with numbers, it is correct statistically, the data, it's formulated differently.
Right. Well, you want to make sure it's useful information, that it's something they can use as a tool or to understand what's happening in their business. And if it's not, then what's the point? Yeah. I mean, we think it's great. It looks good, but
Yeah, that's something that I have trouble with because we partner with a lot of CPA firms, but then we also do direct business to business. And so when you're talking direct business to business, most of the time you have an engineer. And then obviously when you're talking to an accountant, it's more financial. And so trying to like change, we have different, one pagers and things for whether it's a CPA partner or whether it's an owner or, so I try to like set my days. Okay, today's an accounting day, today's an engineer day. Because if I go back and forth, I always confuse myself or them. And I so that is definitely a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I have one client who's a real estate developer, but he used to work for Intuit as a software engineer. And where I live, TurboTax is literally up the street from me, the offices. And so, he struggles with all of that. So, having to explain and help him understand about the financial side, was really, he would say, okay, well, you need to show me, prove it to me. I don't understand, and so and I've been with him for 2 years. So finally and I kept telling him, he tries to do all the bookkeeping himself, right? And I keep telling you have to have somebody else do it. He has literally 18 different businesses in 2 different states. And so finally last week he said, okay, I'm ready for that. And also about a month ago, I said, okay, I corrected something and this is what, why and blah, blah, blah. And here I can show you. And he goes, oh no, I trust you now. I'm like, oh, I told him after 2 years, that's amazing. So, but, I had to be patient. You have to be kind of patient with them, I guess, they have their own timeline about things and their own comfort levels, with people. But when I worked in healthcare, that was the same thing with doctors. It was like you had to prove it. You had to cite it. I had to come to meetings with a lot of information that I didn't necessarily share with them. But if they asked, I had it to show them. This is where I got the data.
Yeah, I tend to throw up all over everything. Right? and bury the lead. I do that a lot. I had, I don't know if you guys do DISC or Enneagram or my
yes,
those kind of neat fun. So I'm a CS, of course. My owner is a DD. A lot of entrepreneurs are Ds or
yes,
Eights.
they are. That's
in the Enneagram world, 7s, 3 sometimes. Anyway, and so I've had, just okay. After working with them, take your last paragraph and put it at the top.
Right.
I'll get to all the detail if I want to.
Exactly.
Send me the conclusion first.
Yeah, what I learned was 1 page, big font.
Yeah.
Just got the highlights, and then if, like you say, Paul, like I have all the detail, all the other information. Sure. It's like in emails. It's like, people just go on and on and on. I'm like, okay, if it's more than like 2 paragraphs, I'm out.
Yeah.
I just can't. I just don't want to.
Yeah. Yep. So we go back and forth. At almost every owner I've had, we go back and forth because I'll send them that first. Okay, here you go. And then I'll put the detail under it. And then they'll come talk to me and ask me questions that's in the detail.
Of course.
Yeah.
Read the detail.
Right.
I get it. I gave you the conclusion. You wanted the conclusion.
Right.
Don't come ask me questions. Read the detail.
Nobody reads anymore.
True.
Then if you have questions, ask those questions.
Well, you kind of have to train them. You have to, help them.
Well, it's like they're the owner, so
right. That's true. They're the boss.
Say, just do what I tell you. Okay, gotcha. It's all good.
It is, and it's interesting, how different the owners are and where they're at, and and it's so hard for them to let go of everything in their business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's their baby.
Yeah, and one thing that I struggled with initially was helping people to understand the value of a mission and a value statement, and how if you have that, then when there are opportunities that come up, you can always balance them off of your mission and value statement. But people don't want to do that. So Simon Sinek, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, or he does the why. And the why is your mission and value statement. But if I present it to the client as the why did you start your business? What brought you joy?
Do what you do?
And they get it. And I'm like, okay, take your why. I just don't even call it a mission and value statement, and compare this opportunity to your why. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just isn't going to support what your business, the direction it needs to go in. But but it was as simple as let's just call it a why and not a mission and value.
I call it a decision-making matrix.
Okay? Well, there you go. That's good.
We all have core values that we live by, or at least we should, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so, and so for me, I decided what those were when I was a teenager, which as I got older, I learned was very unusual. And so then I basically put everything into that decision making matrix, and I spit my answer out at the back end of that based on that. And it's actually a series of lessons that Dave Ramsey does in his Entree Leadership program. It's a lot of people do it anyway. And we went through that at one of the companies that I was going through, and my owner got a little irritated with me. Seems to be a theme. Anyway, because we were going through this video thing, and he says, okay, write down, the 5 most important things in your life. So I wrote them down. And it gave me like 10 minutes, and I wrote them down in like 30 seconds, right? And then it said, okay, now go back and put them in order. And I sat there.
Because you already did it.
I wrote them in order, right? So the very first, and again, 10 minutes, Then he comes back, he calls on me first thing because I didn't answer. I was obviously not cooperating, right? I was, but it didn't look like it. And so he calls on me, so I rattle him off, right? And then I said, I don't know how people make, first of all, I picked on all the people in the room because they were all like, it was an accounting firm and a fractional CFO company. And they weren't 18-year-olds. I said, how do you people make decisions in your life if you haven't done this? How do you decide what to say yes to and what to say no to? How do you know what to do and how to do it if you haven't already done this? And they all looked at me like I had 3 eyes. And the owner looked at me a little irritated because that was the next video.
Oh, no. He stole his thunder.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with me that day. We had a meeting afterwards. I said, I'm sorry. You should have warned me. I can't warn everybody, right? Because that ruins it. I said, I understand.
I always tell people I'm screaming type A.
I'm really not. I used to be.
I am.
A lot more than I am now. When I was 18, much more so. Now I'm an old man. Much less so.
Oh, I still am that way. I just don't let people see that. It's behind the scenes.
If you back me into a corner, it comes. But, it is what it is. But I used to look for it. I used to think it was fun.
Oh, not good.
No.
No, not good.